Hi everyone, it's your boy Robert here, and today I'm going to give you a tour of the Hunan Embroidery Museum, located in downtown Changsha. The museum is open from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week, and entrance is free. The museum showcases the historical craftsmanship skills of embroidery and their contributions to world art. The museum finished construction and opened in 1999. It underwent major upgrades and renovations and reopened to the public in 2020. Today, the museum covers an area of 2,000 square meters or 21,500 square feet and boasts around 4,000 pieces of art. To date, the museum has attracted over 10 million visitors. The museum also houses an art gallery displaying artworks available for purchase. Art pieces range from 100 RMB or 15 USD souvenirs to large masterpieces of 500,000 RMB or 81,000 USD. The gallery shop is the first exhibition you encounter when entering the museum. You can also purchase embossed clothes, fabrics, earrings, and other embroidered trinkets. The four most distinguished embroidery styles in China are the Suzhou, Sichuan, Cantonese, and Hunan embroidery, aka Xiang embroidery, and the museum boasts all four styles. Everything you've seen thus far is for sale. From this point, we will officially enter the museum. The museum consists of 3 exhibition halls, each with its own theme. First, you will come across the historical origin of embroidery. Then you will move on to the rise of Hunan embroidery. Lastly, you'll find the contemporary embroidery exhibition. Embroidery practices date back at least 2,500 years. This is based on samples and evidence found during the unearthing of the Chu tomb in 1958. The contents of the tomb date back to the spring and autumn period in Chinese history. Furthermore, 40 pieces of embroidered garments were excavated from the Mawangdoi Han tomb in 1972. Which is also in Changsha. These archaeological discoveries point out that during the Western Han Dynasty, embroidery technology rapidly advanced and made the practice more popular. The Mawangdai tomb also contained a silk gown that only weighed 49 grams, and even with today's technology, it is impossible to replicate a gown that weighs this light. In Chinese tradition, it is believed that silk spun by silkworms is a gift from the gods. It is therefore not surprising that in ancient times people wore silk clothes during harvest season and special festivals to honor their deities. It was during the Qing dynasty between 1644 AD to 1911 AD that the number of embroiders increased due to the rise of many new forms of needleworks. This also made embroidery accessible to the lower class of society for the first time. Lower class women would have basic pictures sewed on their shoe tops, waistbands, pillows and hats. On the other spectrum of society, wealthy women would embroider things themselves in their spare time to showcase their feminism and wealth. In the early 1900s, demand for embroidered clothes from the imperial government gave rise to even new forms of needleworks, as women in local counties developed unique embroidered styles to reflect the local customs and cultures of their regions. Hunan embroidery has distinct characteristics of Chu culture and is known for embroidering with silk thread. This style follows a pattern that leaves behind a high sense of realism. In the year 2006, Hunan embroidery was the first embroidery style to be selected for the National Intangible Cultural Heritage List. Hunan embroidery is characterized by its boldness, bright colors, and its preciseness. It focuses on topics related to mountains, rivers, and nature, which are abundant in the province. Well, at least it was in ancient times. The process of creating a piece of Hunan embroidery requires a painter to first sketch an ink design on a Xuan paper. Then the embroidering part is usually done on transparent chiffon silk. The silk threads are dyed and then soaked in water containing pod nuts. The oil in the pod nuts tend to make the thread soft and easier to use. Another traditional method of preparing thread in Hunan embroidery is to boil it with glenditsia and then wipe it down with bamboo paper. This prevents the thread from piling. What distinguishes Hunan embroidery from other embroidery is its thread splitting technique, which can make a single thread as thin as a hair. This technique is called Yang Mao Shizhu. To date, there are around 600 types of thread colors and around 52 different kinds of needlework in Hunan embroidery. The most popular form of needlework in Hunan embroidery is called furry needle, and it is mainly used for embroidering tigers. The first commercial shop to sell embroidered items was opened in 1911 by Hu Lianxian. Before that, embroidered items were always made by individual people in their homes. The commercialization of embroidery led to a boom in the practice that peaked in the late 1930s. Unfortunately, due to the outbreak of the Sino-Japanese War in 1937, most of the embroidery shops in eastern Hunan and Changsha were looted and destroyed. It was only in 1947 that Hunan embroidery made a comeback, but it has never been as popular as it was during the late 1930s. After the Second World War, many shop owners would decorate their shops with framed embroidered works. People would also buy smaller embroidered items as gifts for family and friends. With the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, Hunan embroidery became more prosperous as the new government strongly supported folk arts. As before, the demand for embroidered items shifted from the wealthy to the working class. The government achieved this mass consumption by keeping the tools and materials needed to produce embroidery low, thereby keeping the price of the finished products low and the demand high. The Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976 threatened the very existence of embroidery as a practice along with all other Chinese folk arts. The Cultural Revolution attempted to change four old aspects of society: thinking, habits, culture, and customs. The Cultural Revolution attempted to socially purify the arts. This included Beijing operas, folklores, and embroidery. Mao Zedong engineered and spearheaded the revolution. He appointed his wife Jiang Quen to be in charge of arts during the Cultural Revolution. Jiang particularly targeted cultural arts such as films and embroidery, that depicted emperors, officials, scholars, and concubines, along with fairy tales, old legends, and anything else that didn't promote the political agenda at the time. Because embroidery was viewed as part of the old force, Hunan embroidery was on the verge of becoming non-existent. Most embroiders, including famous ones, resorted to farming in order to make ends meet. Those that were fortunate enough were commissioned to produce propaganda artworks for revolutionary museums. In order to deter revisionist thought during the Cultural Revolution, government officials forced the designers of embroidery to include political figures and war heroes. Embroidery pieces that depicted peonies and flowers were still admired as they represented the embroider's love for country and communism. When the Cultural Revolution came to an end in 1977, the government granted aid to the Hunan embroidery industry by appointing specific buyers for each embroidery company, which ensured that every company was sustainable with a constant cash flow. Hunan embroidery retraced back to its more decorative roots as the government shifted its stance to protecting the Chinese cultural heritage. More than 30 renowned embroiders were invited back to the Hunan Embroidery Research Institute to train hundreds of new apprentices. In just a few years, the institute invented double-faced embroidery. Double-faced embroidery requires the most experience and technique to create. Basically, it has the same picture on both sides of a silk canvas. In essence, the back end of the canvas depicts how the back of the object would look like if it were three-dimensional. This embroidery style requires two embroiders, one on each side of the canvas, working simultaneously. In the 1990s, however, the national government withdrew all subsidies to privately owned embroidery companies, and many embroidery companies folded. This was not only due to the lack of government funds, but also as a result of rapid industrialization in China. Machines could now produce embroidery faster and cheaper than ever before, and labor costs were also kept low because of minimum wage laws. All these factors negatively impacted the quality of embroidery, and as a result, demand for embroidery also dropped. It is sad to report, though, that Hunan embroidery and embroidery as a whole is under threat as a folk tradition in China. The lead to industrialization and the acquired tastes for Western art and goods among the newer generations of Chinese people has left a void in the demand for traditional Chinese art. If you enjoyed the tour of the museum and Hunan embroidery has piqued your curiosity, you should definitely visit if you find yourself in Changsha. Additionally, you can visit the Mecca of Hunan embroidery in the town of Shaping. The town of Shaping has a 2-kilometer long boulevard with embroidery shops on both sides, and I'm definitely tempted to visit sometime in the future myself and make a video there. As you exit the last exhibition of the museum, you come across this wonderful piano shop on the right hand side. We decided to pop in and have a look. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.